All right, so welcome to the second prestigious fellowship workshop, and Jerry is going to present as he did last week. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to, you can either put them in the chat or you can just interrupt or ask, and Lauren or I can help moderate that. But we're really glad that you're here, and I'll just have Jerry take it away.
All right, thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Lauren. Welcome everybody to the second workshop. I hope you did a little bit of the homework that we expected you to after the first workshop. Just as a reminder, the deadlines are coming up, and so this is something you don't want to put on the back burner, but it's something you want to make a priority. So I'm going to share my screen, and we will go through the workshop. Okay, everybody see that okay? Thumbs up. Thanks, Amanda. Okay, well, here we are, number 2. And so first, we talked a little bit about this last time. The GRFP is the first one we're going to speak to. And the personal statement is really important. And I don't know if you guys had a chance to start working on yours, but it shouldn't read like a resume. It shouldn't read like a vita. It really needs to be something that's personal. It's reflective. It talks about your relevant background and your future goals. Talk about, where you grew up, what brought you into the field of STEM, into science, what got you excited. What are some of those maybe unique experiences you had that really inspired you to seek a graduate degree? And talk about your passions, talk about your drive. That's what they want to hear. They don't just want to see a resume, because they get a ton of those. They want to know the people that they're funding. They want to know their stories. And so if you're, if you're an Indigenous student here, talk about, being raised on the reservation, if that's part of your background and your history. If you're a first generation college student, talk about that, how important it was to meet your undergraduate goals and then move on to your graduate goals. So these, you really can't, you can be a little bit too fluffy, but they really need to be personal. And so spend some time with that. I know we get into such a rut sometimes writing just perfectly technical documents and STEM disciplines. This is a chance for you to really write something that reflects about who you are and what you want to be, when you grow up. So that's the first component. And it usually takes 2 or 3 drafts. And sometimes it's very helpful to have a friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, partner, read through that. Somebody that may know you, they'll look at that and they'll go, oh yeah, but you didn't mention this. You should have mentioned this. You should have mentioned this. And that's very helpful. So reach out to your friends, your partners, and others and help them, have them review that to help you make it stronger. The next part is the intellectual merit and broader impacts. We talked about that last time. You've got to have 2 separate sections on those. So one on intellectual merit. What's this going to add to the field? How do you see yourself adding to the knowledge base? And the broader impacts. What is this going to do for society as a whole? Tie in potentially K-12 education. How could this new discovery or this project you're working on help inspire young students then to seek STEM disciplines and degrees in the future? And again, you're constrained on pages here. So be very sensitive to that. Don't squish it down to, ultra dinky font to try and fit it in. You've got to follow their guidelines. And then the last part is those letters of recommendation. You can help your referees write those. Most of the people around here know what it looks like to write a GRFP recommendation. And so you shouldn't have too much trouble with that. And you need to have those in, I think it was a week after, or no, it's the end of October. So you have a little extra time to get those sent in to add to your packet. And so here's some tips. We gave you the solicitation number last time. Read the entire solicitation. Become familiar with it to make sure that you understand it and know what they're looking for. Research what has worked for previous winners. We're going to have some panel of people come in and talk to you about how they wrote their GRFP applications and what they think got them the award. We have 8 of them on campus right now, GRFP winners. And so they've been very happy and very gracious to take the time and help share with others what worked for them. Use your essays, like I mentioned earlier, to tell your story in a very engaging manner. Be real, be reflective. And it doesn't have to be very technical. It just has to be, well written. Again, be personal. And be strategic in what you include, and particularly in your intellectual merit and broader impacts. Don't just talk about what's been done right now or what is the state of the art. Talk about what it could be in the future and how you see yourself fitting into the future in those scientific disciplines. It's always good to get diverse letters of recommendation. So not just your major professor and then 2 other faculty members that you're working with, but if you've had an internship, get a letter from somebody that you worked in your internship with. Perhaps get one from your undergraduate research advisor. Think broadly. Those broad letters of recommendation will really help. And if you've worked in a lab, if you had an undergrad research experience at a different institution, reach out to those folks. I'm sure they know all about the GRFP and would be happy to write you a letter. Use formatting to your advantage. If there's something you really want to stand out, use a bold font, use italics, underline, set yourself apart. There's a lot of people applying for these because they are very prestigious and they're very, very, a lot of cash goes with these. So, give yourself every advantage to really point out those things that are going to set you apart. Give yourself lots of time. Every day is one day closer to the deadline. And so you need to be started right away and right now to give yourself enough time to get it done. We do have those roadmaps and it's completely doable. We've had students very successful. They've started their essays right here at the beginning of the workshops and they've gotten them in and they've won. Read your app over and over again. This is basic writing, write, read, rewrite. So every time you read it, you're going to see something different. Have your friends read it. Have your partner read it. Have them tell you what they see in it. Is it clear? Does it say what you want it to say? And then highlight all those accomplishments that you have. If you were selected for a prestigious award as an undergraduate, talk about it. Talk about being selected into a faculty member's lab. Let them know that you are somebody that they definitely want to fund. And so we just mentioned real quickly about the essay and the career goals. They want to know that their money is going to go to good use for the future. If you look at the GRFP history, it started back in I think it was 1952 or 1954, and they've had tens of thousands of awards go out. And I think there's 40 or 50 Nobel laureates that have been GRFPs over that period of time. And so they're really trying to fund the best and the brightest, and it's given people a really solid kickstart in graduate school. So state your career goals, what you're interested in, why. What are you studying, and then why is that important to you? And maybe you can tie that back to your personal statement. Maybe it's something that you want to bring back to your community. Perhaps you lived in a rural community and there was issues with well water, and you're studying water resources. Talk about how you can bring that back for the betterment of not only your community, but all the rural communities in the country and perhaps around the world. List the ways that your grad research is going to assist you in your goals. You can tie all that together again back to your personal statement. How will your lab or school help you accomplish the goals? Here you want to talk about what you're going to, you can take this with you. You don't have to say which school you're going to in here. It doesn't have to be Idaho. It could be Colorado. It could be Minnesota. It could be Georgia. But how does your lab or school help you accomplish your goals? Whichever school you end up going to, we'd love you to stay at Idaho. Talk about how you need that experience. You need those labs. You need those interactions with faculty and students to help you get to where you want to go. And how is the GRFP going to help you get there? It's pretty obvious. It's going to fund your studies. It's going to provide you a way to do your work without having to have another job, without having to be a research assistant or a teaching assistant, although those are often built into the experience of these doctoral students, because you get 5 years to use 3 years of funding. And so quite often what we see is the 3 years of NSF GRFP funding being split up between 2 more years of being an RA or a TA. So you get a very, very well-rounded experience. But the first couple of years, it's really focused on you just taking the necessary coursework and getting started on your research without having to do additional work. List all titles and topics of previous research, life experiences, scholarships, awards, all that kind of stuff. The stuff that really makes you unique, makes you you, and that's really helped you identify and solidify that area of study that you want to go into. And then try as best you can to keep things in chronological order. And maybe there was a real significant experience in high school. You might want to go back that far. Maybe it was something that you experienced in a community organization. Maybe it was Boy Scouts, somebody that took you on a field outing and you discovered plants or insects, and now you're going to study entomology. So be willing to go back and really think about what were some of those key moments in your life. Your research plan, they want to see something that's clear and concise. They want it to be focused. And they want to know why you're doing it. And so it's got to be something they can read, they can look at, and then go, okay, that makes sense. I see how this plan is going to get this person to that research goal. If you have figures and illustrations, use them. If you need to draw some up, that's great, do it. And then this is kind of a big step, and you're probably going to want to work with your major professor right now to have them help you design this research plan. They have done it, I'm sure, for others. They probably did one themselves. And so have them give you a hand on this to really design a very, it has to be concise, remember that, but a very clear and focused research plan. So here's some more tips. These are takeaways from the GRFP webinar they put on at the national level. You cannot access prior applications, but you can use your same account. So if you're into your second round, your first one in graduate school, you can use your same account. You don't have to create a new one. Your transcripts can be unofficial or official. It's so easy now just to print one off of VandelWeb and send it in. You don't have to request and spend $12 or $15 on an official transcript. You can submit up to 5 letters of rec, but you'll want to rank the top 3 to make sure that those are the ones that those reviewers read and really speak most strongly to your potential and your research plan. They do take into consideration the level of the applicant, meaning it'd be tougher to get as a grad student than an undergrad, but not impossible. And so again, it comes back to that strong research plan and that essay, that personal statement that really provides the picture of who you are and why you want to be a scientist. You are not required to do the research you propose in your plan. I think I mentioned that earlier. These are portable fellowships. They go with you. And so right now you may be working on a project as an undergrad and it's fantastic. You're excited and you get this award and you end up going to a different university, or maybe even you stay here and you connect with a different major professor and you shift. That's perfectly okay. What they are looking at is the individual potential, not necessarily the exact fit to your plan. They want to fund the person, not necessarily the plan, but they want to know that you can put together a solid plan. Award rates typically 12 to 15%. Again, if NSF sees some additional funding coming from the next budget, that may go up. And so we hope it does, and we hope to see a lot of Idaho people winning these awards. Your future advisor may write you a letter of recommendation if you know who that is. So if you've already decided to stay here at Idaho and you know who you want to work with, they certainly can write you a letter of recommendation. It's not required. You may not accept multiple concurrent federal fellowships. You can accept concurrent private fellowships. And so you can't really stack an NIH fellowship on top of an NSF fellowship, for example. Not likely that that would happen. But you could pick up a Murdoch Trust Fellowship or something like that and stack that on top of your GRFP. I do know of one student who stacked 3 on top of each other, and his fellowship total in earnings was $80,000 a year. And not a bad way to live. Always refer back to the website and the solicitation. That's why we want you to read that solicitation through and through. And then there is a national number, the 866 number that's there. That's the national GRFP kind of hotline. If you have questions that aren't answered, either through our webinars here, our workshops, or in the solicitation, please give them a call. They're very, very helpful. And the school you're attending or plan to attend makes no difference. They want to know what you can do. They don't want to know what school you're going to. So really focus again just on yourself. And down there at the bottom are some websites that would help you write that application. And so take a look at these websites, get some ideas about those successful applicants and what they wrote and what won. And remember the roadmap. Okay, we're moving right through this. If you see where we're at, we're down here into this week. And so you need to start getting your materials put together. So by the 19th, you're moving those essays back to your major professor and committee and others. And so right here, developing your essay, looking at your strategy, and getting your references on board to write your letters. So here's your homework, more homework. Not that you have homework from school, right? So write a personal statement, research plan, ghostwrite letters of rec for each recommender. So ghostwriting is where you can actually help that recommender write your letter. I have students do that for me. I really appreciate it. If they come to me and they say, hey, I'd like a letter of recommendation, here's a draft. I like, oh man, that's fantastic. Then I can take that draft and adjust it for what I see in my perspective. And it just saves a ton of time. And it really helps the writer know about some of those features and facts that they may not have known about you as just a student or just an advisee. Ask your references to take a look at your application strategy and talk about how their letter should fit into that strategy. You may have one that talks, or two that talk really strongly about the research plan. You may have one that talks about the research plan, but also about who you are as a person and your potential as a scientist in the future. Make sure your referees know about the application requirements, most importantly, the deadlines, that they have to get that letter in by that deadline date. Provide them your resume or your CV. They may already know you very well, but there may be some things in there that they don't know about you, and that would be very helpful for them to have as they write that letter. And then again, just keep following the roadmap. So the four, well, do we want to stop here and see if there's any questions about GRFP?
Hey, Jerry.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Okay, I just had a question about the personal statement. Do we need to include things like the intellectual merit and broader impacts within the personal statement, or is that specific to the research plan and research statement?
That's in the research plan.
Okay, so we wouldn't include subheadings within our personal statement about our intellectual merit or broader impacts.
That's part of the research. And so the personal statement's about you as the individual researcher.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Jerry, I had a question too about, I guess, the broader impact and intellectual merit. So is that in with the 2-page max with the research plan?
Yep, it gets tight.
Okay.
Yep, you've got to follow those page limits.
Okay.
Other questions or anything in the chat? I have not been monitoring the chat. I perhaps should have been following that. Is there anything out there, Amanda or Lauren?
Nope, nothing in the chat right now.
Okay. Anything else for you guys to add, Amanda?
No, I think you're doing awesome.
Well, thank you. Okay, let's talk about the Ford. Now, the Ford is like I mentioned last time, a fellowship that's is more broad in respect to the disciplines that can apply for it. But it is much more competitive. But again, it's a very significant fellowship. If you get a Ford, you are one of very few across the nation. And so it's something really to shoot for and apply for both. You can really leverage both, what you've done for the GRFP and apply for the Ford as well. Not a problem. And if you're in a science and engineering discipline that's eligible under the National Science and Engineering or the Defense Award, apply for that one too. So your personal statement here is 2 pages in the Ford, and basically the same type of thing. They want to know who you are. That's why it's a personal statement. And then your second component there is your previous research, scholarly productivity. That's where you would, put in publications, things like that that you've completed, research experiences. Then your third one is your proposed graduate research and long-term career goal statement. They give you a little more space, 2 pages just for that, which is a little bit longer than the GRFP. And then they also require letters of recommendation, 1-pagers. So those are a little bit shorter. I believe the GRFP had 2-page limit on the letters of rec, and you're allowed 3 of those. They do these page limits because they're not trying to see how technically, concise you can be in your writing, but the reviewers are going to get thousands and thousands of these. And so I have read these for NSF, and yeah, you got a stack of them and it would take them months if they were, 20, 30 pages long. So the personal statement forward, remember, has a big diversity component. We went over that last time. And so make sure you read through those requirements for the Ford Foundation Fellowship and include that in there. And then talk about the teaching component as well. And so the 4 requirements are your personal statement, previous research and scholarly productivity, proposed graduate research and career goals, and then the letters. So the Ford application advice: how does your lived experience in school, research, work, and/or life align with the mission of the Ford Foundation? Remember, you've got to talk about diversity in this. And so what's highlighted there in gold is you need to state explicitly how you have or will contribute to the expansion of the K-12 college pipeline, to undergraduate to graduate school transition, or to any other concrete issues pertaining to access to higher education and equity. That's key. You've got to have that in there. So go back and reread those guidelines and make sure this is something that you're speaking directly to in your essay. If you have any questions, we will get this out to folks to read. Have other people read it. Again, having other eyes on things, having other eyes on your writing is always a strong tactic to use. Write an explicit discussion of how you made it will make it possible for other underrepresented peoples to achieve their educational hopes and dreams. Okay. Again, that focus on diversity and access. What previous research have you conducted, and how did that research prepare you for your current project? Look back, any experience is experience. And so you may not have been employed full-time in a lab, but maybe you volunteered in a lab. Add all of that in there. Okay, it doesn't have to be just what you were doing as your senior level undergrad experience. Maybe you were involved in a lab as a junior, or your first experience was a sophomore. Talk about all of that. What does your research contribute? And so this is kind of like the GRFP. What are the impacts? Why is it important? And then what does it add that we don't already know, and why is that significant? So the research we do, our intent is always to add new knowledge, to create new knowledge, and then disseminate that out to communities and people and other researchers to take it forward and continue to move the needle in that discipline. And so, talk about why your research is significant. What do you see as the next steps beyond it? Maybe it's a question you can't answer, but you're doing preliminary work for that next person to answer the question or take that question even farther. You'll need, again, at least 3 letters of recommendation, 5 maximum. If you are in graduate school, one must come from a faculty advisor or a person in the current department. Find people with PhDs. Shouldn't be hard at U of I. All of our faculty have PhDs. And so they can speak to the merits of your work. That PhD is a credential they're going to be looking for. Obviously, you want them to write a positive letter. I don't think anybody would select a referee that would write a negative letter. And again, the roadmap. We're right up here again, the second bar across. So again, you've got some time. And so get to work and let's get together, or get you with those individuals that can help you. We can help you. We'll get it out to faculty review, other faculty, to help you get a really strong Ford application going. The National Defense, Science and Engineering. And so this one is really tight, 500 words. And so it doesn't take long to get to 500 words. And so here you've got to be pretty tight in your writing. But same components are there. They want to know who you are as the researcher, who you are as a person. Now this one has a unique spin on it, is that they want to know how this is going to contribute to the Department of Defense. This doesn't necessarily mean weapons. Okay, the Department of Defense also deals in psychological health of military families. I mean, there's a broad range of areas that this one would be eligible for. And so you've got to write your personal statement, then you have your proposed research relative to what the Department of Defense is interested in. You've got 3 pages. You can add 1 page of citations, and then your letters of rec. And they are 1 page limited with 3 of them required. So this one's got a pretty low acceptance rate, 5 to 10%. I haven't heard of this one expanding at all, but it very well could if the federal government puts more money into research. And so it pays $115,000, not bad money, in 3 consecutive years. And then they cover your tuition and health insurance. And so you can't defer this. If you get this, you have to take it. And so the offices that sponsor it are Army Research, Naval Research, Air Force Scientific Research, and then the High Performance Computing Modernization Office. And so you've got to look at those websites and take a look at the research that they're doing. There's some really interesting stuff. And like I said, it's not just about weapon systems, things like that. It's very, very broad. So take a look at all of that. You know, if you are in movement science, we've had quite a few people go to work in the military out of movement science, working in the physical development of Army members. So it's broad. Brainstorm a project, and it's on you to come up with something interesting and fun. It's something you're interested in doing, and so you need to really have it come across in the application that you are interested in this project, not just what you think, well, it'd be kind of cool, but really why you think that it would be important for the Department of Defense and why you're excited about it. Talk to others, have them help you brainstorm. What would be a good idea? What would be a great topic for the Office of Naval Research? Maybe it's, you know, how do we keep naval officers physically in shape on a submarine when they're down there for multiple months? There can be all kinds of great ideas. You just have to think broadly and sometimes outside the box. Again, write your essay early and have someone who has written grants to Department of Defense take a look at it and read it. We have quite a few faculty here who are funded solely by the Department of Defense. Have them take a look at what you've written and make sure it fits with what their experience is writing to the Department of Defense. Write your essay like a mini grant proposal. You're going to tell them who you are and what you want to do. You don't have to put a budget in, which is nice. That's usually the worst part of writing a grant proposal. But don't use a lot of jargon, be down to earth, and let them know why they should fund you. And again, we have a roadmap. Oop. And there it is. Again, we're in the second bar going across here. You've got some time. This one's due end of October. So GRFP would be due first, and then the defense would be second, and then the Ford would be third. Are there any questions to this point? Okay. We'll keep going. Okay. So for the Ford and National Defense, write a personal statement, a research statement, and ghostwrite a rough draft of a letter for each of your recommenders. And then ask your references to write your letters and provide each with your draft essay. Give them that ghostwritten one that you write, rough draft letter of recommendation that they can take a look at and add to. Your application strategy and how their letters fit into that strategy. So, you know, what's your research plan? How your strategy is taking you as the researcher forward through your research plan, and then to graduation and to a career. And so how do their letters fit into that strategy? At what stage will their letter really support you across that plan you have? Official submission instructions and deadlines, make sure you take a look at those and give those to your reference writers. And then your updated CV. It's always good to have one of those updated every time you get a presentation or a poster accepted or a publication. It's always good practice just to immediately go and update your CV. And then follow the roadmaps. We've put them there to give you some guidance and let you know it is totally doable. And students have done it, and we hope we will continue to get students to be successful and do it. So these are your general application resources. So the National Academies has a great site. It's that first one on writing proposals. And that's actually a really good website. If you just go to the National Academies, that's the National Academy of Science, National Academy of Engineers, National Academy of Medicine. They've got some really cool stuff out there that you should just surf through for a good period of time. And you can look through that, and that may help you really kind of catalyze your idea. The National Academies also has some GRFP examples, and they talk about how to write a good proposal. The SSRC, I don't remember what that stands for right now, but they have the art of writing a good proposal, plus some examples. Take a look at that. University of Illinois has a great site on how to build a good CV and some examples that you can follow. And then our research office here has budget rates, forms, and resources page. I don't think you need to know that for these particular ones, but for grant applications, you might need to refer to that. We do have the Writing Center available, and we do have a specific individual in the Writing Center that's assigned just to work with graduate students. And so use them as another set of eyes. Bring this material to them and have them take a look at it for clarity. They probably won't know the field of study that you're going into, but that's okay, because they'll be reading it as a layperson, somebody that doesn't understand, and it will be often very helpful, because they'll be asking you questions like, oh yeah, I thought everybody knew that. Oh, well, so this might be something you need to add. You could use career services. They have good support for writing resumes and CVs. Make sure you talk to your advisor and other faculty. I'm sure you've become quite close with a number of faculty on campus. They want you to be successful, so reach out to them. Don't be afraid to ask them to review your materials, and then obviously your peers and other graduate students. And that's all that we had for today. So we got through that in about half an hour. We wanted the balance of the time to have you guys ask questions, anything you want us to discuss, review. Amanda, anything else to add?
I'm not getting my mute to come off. Did that work?
Yep.
No, everything, nothing else in the chat, and everything's seems like you covered it, and my Zoom is failing again, like yesterday.
Are you on campus or at home?
I am at home, but it seems to be a problem with the program itself. But anyway, I would love to hear discussion or questions people have.
Yeah, please, if there's questions, shoot them out there. If you're online, put them in the chat or just jump on in.
Hi, I have another question kind of pertaining to the NSF personal statement. Some of the examples I've seen online and that I've gotten from prior fundees, they do have like a career and future goals, but they also have outlined like their impacts from, well, I guess like what they would want to see as a broader impacts. And they've outlined that within their personal statement as well as within their research statement. I'm not sure if prior RFPs have specifically stated to have that in both documents, but I know you mentioned earlier that's strictly for the research statement.
Right. So I'm going back to another document I've got for some clarity here. Hang on just a second. Okay, here we go. Okay, so the personal statement for NSF really should show your potential, who you are, how you're going to be engaged in this discipline, how you're going to become an expert and a leader who can contribute. And so it really is about you. It could include some of those broader impacts, and it could include your intellectual merit as well. And so actually, the NSF, it really should be kind of common thread through all of your essays and all of your documents. And so maybe if you look at it like the intellectual merit and the broader impact are the common thread through all of them, including your letters of reference. And so, open it up in your personal statement, but then in your research plan, really talk about how the research is going to impact society, change the field, change the discipline. And then your references should say, yeah, this is what this student can do, and this is where we see them going, and this is where we see this individual contributing to the discipline and how it's going to impact our world. Does that make sense? Maybe keeping it as a common thread through all of the documents?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And it almost sounds like you would tailor your broader impacts and your intellectual merit section within your research statement just to your research. And then you can also tie in your prior research experiences and career goals into like a separate broader impact and intellectual merit or research experience for your personal statement.
Mhm.
But I understand that you would want to have like that common thread between what your reviewees or your referees have to say about you as well. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify if I were to have like a subsection within my personal statement that had like a heading that said broader impacts, that it wasn't alluding to like, this is what my research statement will do as a broader impact. That's all.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it would be pretty tragic if you said your intellectual merit was in this particular field and then your references talked about something different. And I think that's why you need to help coach those references by ghostwriting those letters to help them really nail that broader impact and that intellectual merit component.
Definitely. Thank you.
You bet. Good question. Others? When I've read these in the past, the ones that you really are kind of drawn to are the ones that you read and you don't think about how long it took to read it. Sometimes you get into something, you're going, oh my God, I spent 15 minutes reading this and I'm just already bored. The ones that really excited me were the ones where you just kept reading and reading and reading. You almost wanted more. And then you're at the end. So write it like that, write it, so it's something that somebody's going to keep wanting to, it's like, oh my gosh, this person's doing great work. We got to fund them because we want to know more. And we don't leave big questions out there, but write it so that they want to know more about you. Anything else? Anybody have anything they'd like to share? Did anybody come with a personal statement?
I currently am reworking mine. I think me and my advisor, as well as Elizabeth, who's in the chat, I've come to the conclusion that I need to be a little bit more concise with some of the points that I'm trying to highlight within my personal statement. So I try to narrow that down quite a bit and cut out a lot of the pre-fluff, I guess, is like what we were talking about it. So I do have that, but I'm not sure how I would share that with this now.
I'm not sure that, if you could share it on the screen, we could take a look at it. You'd have a bunch of different eyes looking at it and maybe pick up something if you're willing.
I would be. I'm unfortunately not too Zoom savvy. I'll try and figure this out if anyone else has questions.
Okay, thank you. Anything from in the IRIC room? Lauren, anybody over there with questions?
Nope, no questions.
Okay, they're all excited and can't wait to start writing.
Very excited.
Oh, I'm sure. And Amanda's back. Well, we are excited you are all intending on submitting. Again, this is something that is really beneficial to you. We'd love it if you all stayed at Idaho, but again, the value of this is for you as the individual to move on into the scientific disciplines and do good work in the future. So if there's no other questions or comments or anything, I guess we can turn you loose to start writing.
Thank you everyone for coming, and thank you, Jerry, for presenting.
You bet.
Thank you, Jerry. Oh, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure there's another meeting next week. Is that right?
So next week's
yeah.
meeting is focused on international students, only for international students, talking about opportunities available. for them. And then the week after that is our final prestigious fellowship workshop. That's when the panel of current awardees will be there, and they can
That's right.
answer questions and talk about their experiences as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
You bet.
Welcome.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, and remember, yeah, the workshop or the awards we've talked about here are not, international students are not eligible. So that's why we do a third workshop to get our international students, to get them to write for support as well. Okay, well, if that's it, thank you all for attending, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited to see your packets, if you're willing to share. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.